All right, good afternoon, everyone. Before I start, I would like to ask you guys this question. What gang is affiliated with the color pink? If you don't know, you will find out by the end of my presentation. So this is today's session, guys. I'm going to let you know a little bit more about myself. I'm going to give you some background knowledge on open source intelligence and some really great tools that you can use. I'm going to give you a Telegram case study, closing, and then question and answers. So who am I? My name is Schuyler Davis, as the young lady stated before, and I'm a computer science teacher and an IT coordinator at a small charter school in New Jersey. I'm currently enrolled in the Cybercrime and Digital Investigation Master's Program at Michigan State University. But on the side, I'm an open source intelligence analyst, where I help law enforcement identify victims of sex trafficking. Now, during these investigations, I realized that OSINT can be used to help with the drug trafficking issue and narcoterrorism. I come from a city that has a large narcotics issue, and as someone who wants to keep his community safe and eventually work with law enforcement, I realized open source is the way to go to dismantle this issue. So I want you guys to imagine, if you were in a small town and you noticed drugs, especially fentanyl, flooding the streets and an increase in violence, what can you do as a civilian to help the community? What are the tools law enforcement can use to dismantle narcoterrorism and narco-trafficking from taking place? So before I give you guys those tools, let me explain what narcoterrorism is. The term narcoterrorism was coined in 1983. It was a term used to describe campaigns by drug traffickers using terrorist methods such as car bombs, kidnappings, and assassinations against anti-narcotics police in Colombia and Peru. Narcoterrorism also involves criminal organizations using funds made from their drug transactions to carry out violence and support their operations. There are many instances of narcoterrorism that actually takes place in America, in both large and small neighborhoods like Columbus, Georgia. Now, how is fentanyl and all these illicit drugs getting into the community? The dark web. Now, have many of you guys in the audience heard about the dark web before? All right. Now, in my research, I found out that many drug traffickers are no longer using Tor or the dark web. They're now using Telegram due to the encryption capabilities and the other special capabilities on Telegram. On Telegram, you're not able to screen record or screenshot messages and images, which makes it harder to identify and recognize who these individuals are. However, there are ways around it. Right here, guys, is an example of a Telegram channel, and as you can see on the right-hand side is fentanyl powder and a menu with coke and other drugs mentioned. It's as if you're going to a restaurant or a fast food place where you can just order any type of drugs you want. And on the left-hand side are pills. Now, this is very serious, ladies and gentlemen, because kids have access to Telegram. Young adults have access to Telegram. This is where open source intelligence comes into play. Open source intelligence, for those of you that don't know, is assessing publicly available information. It's using social media, reverse imaging, reverse phone numbers, arrest records, home address, and voting records. So I guarantee right now, if you Google your name, your address may come up. And a lot of us has used OSINT in the past. For all of you that are college students, you use OSINT more than likely to look up your professor on Rate My Professor. Or for those of you who are interested in somebody and wanting to get to know them, you use OSINT. You may go to their Instagram account or their Facebook account. So we've all used OSINT in some way, shape, or form. Right here, guys, are two OSINT tools that are very powerful: PEM eyes and passive reconnaissance. PimEyes is an open source tool for identifying someone. PimEyes is more effective than Google reverse imaging. And I say that because if you were to upload a picture onto Google reverse image of yourself, your picture more than likely will not come up. But if you are wearing a blue polo shirt or glasses, then someone else in a blue polo shirt or glasses will come up. PimEyes is much more effective because it's recognizing your face. Now, passive reconnaissance is information gathering. It's just doing your due diligence and doing the detective work. This is the fun stuff. But although it's fun, I must warn you guys, it's a lot of hard work. Sometimes you might go down a rabbit hole. Sometimes you might get frustrated. When this does happen, I recommend you guys just walk away, you come back, and you continue to do the passive reconnaissance. Now right here, guys, is the case study for the Telegram I found by doing passive reconnaissance. When you go into Telegram, all the channels you can find by typing in simple words such as drugs, fentanyl, Xans, or other street terms for drugs. Now, one thing that I noticed when I went onto this channel was there was a shareable link. And one thing that passive reconnaissance requires us to do is research. So I put this link onto different social media apps, including Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. But the only one that I found a match with was Twitter. So as you can see here on Twitter, which is surprising because shouldn't Twitter or social media apps be filtering out weapons, filtering out drugs? Once again, guys, teenagers, kids have access to social media apps. Why aren't these apps doing something to filter things out like this? So as you can see, there's a picture of mushrooms and there's a picture of guns. And I noticed, if you guys notice, there are two distinct pictures, meaning that there are multiple people posting this link, meaning this is a large organization of individuals who are using Telegram to flood our streets with guns, weapons, etc. So I clicked on the links of the individuals who are posting this link, and I thought, wow, I got it. Because I saw a first name and a last name. But that wasn't aliases, guys. That was a fake name, and I was disappointed. But I said, you know what? I can also use PimEyes to try to get an accurate name of the individual. But as you can see in the picture on the right, their face is covered with money. And when this happens, PimEyes is not able to recognize the face. So you need a clear picture. So this is where passive reconnaissance came in again. I went through the other person's account, and if you can see on the right-hand side, what is similar about both pictures? Say that one more time? The setting is the same. And this individual had their face uncovered. So I put the results into PimEyes, and as you see on the left-hand side, the individual already had arrest records. I clicked onto those arrest records, and I found out the young man and a few others were fleeing from police officers into a mall in Columbus, Georgia. I went through the article, and I found out that they were all arrested for guns, marijuana, and scales and drug paraphernalia. I continued to do research on the young man, and to go back to my first question, do any of you guys know what gang is associated with the color pink? So we all know red is associated with a gang. We know blue is associated with a gang. For those of you that are from New York, we know that green is associated with a gang, and yellow as well. As I continued to do research on this young man, I found an old Facebook account. This young man had a pink bandana wrapped around his neck. At first I thought it was for fashion. And I said, no, there might be an affiliation there. So on Google, I typed in gangs that were pink. And I did not come up with any results. Instead, I got pictures from the ladies from the movie Grease. And I said, okay, that's not them. They're not greasers. So Remember, passive reconnaissance is doing research. So I know this takes place in Columbus, Georgia. So I typed in Columbus, Georgia games, and I was met with a link to a Facebook account, as you can see on the left-hand side, of individuals wearing camouflage. Now you guys might be saying, okay, Sky, how does this relate to narcoterrorism? How does this relate to fentanyl? I'm going to get to that in 1 second. One of the members of the gang was found guilty of assaulting a federal officer or an FBI agent. As I stated before, narcoterrorism is the act of drug traffickers attacking anti-narcotic officers or federal agents. As I continued to do research, I found out that in the same city, Columbus, Georgia, there was a large fentanyl drug bust in the area that was committed by the same gang. Now, this gang is a hybrid gang where there's many gangs or popular gangs come together so they can make money from guns, drugs, and other things. And I must mention, guys, that a lot of the drugs that are now on the streets are full of fentanyl. In New Mexico, we have an issue with fentanyl. In New Jersey, where I'm from, there's an issue with fentanyl. Right down the street from where I live, near the school, 9 gang members were busted last month for selling high quantities of fentanyl. And one thing that we can do, guys, as I showed you from just a Telegram link and PMIs and passive reconnaissance, these individuals can be uncovered and we can try to clean up our streets. So right here, guys, is just a really sad article about drug deaths in Columbus, Georgia. It's continuing to go up. And in my state, guys, very sad. 12,000 packages of fentanyl and drugs were found. So what did we learn today? OSINT is effective in helping identify narcotic traffickers on the dark web. OSINT can be used by civilians like yourself. There are many different volunteer organizations that you can join to either help with the sex trafficking industry or with the drug trafficking industry to help identify those individuals. And illicit goods are advertised on social media. Once again, guys, my name is Schuyler Davis. Thank you guys for listening. Here is the link to my blog where I talk about digital forensics and other cybercrime things. You can email me at beartraptech@gmail.com. I forgot to mention that I have an LLC called Bear Trap Tech where I teach kids the basics of cybersecurity, and I also train law enforcement on open source intelligence. At this time, is there any questions?
Great presentation, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
I wanted to ask you about the next steps. So you found information that related this encrypted channel to an individual, and you're working with some kind of program that involves the law enforcement. But how do you go about packaging the material? Do you create reports, describe your findings? How do you ensure that the information is presentable in court? Is there anything you do to preserve the integrity of the information? How do you go about reporting it to law enforcement?
So very good question. So once it's passed on to law enforcement, it's out of my hands. I'm just doing the research and the voting. So once they have the names and they have the pictures and the evidence, then they go and they continue to do the research and investigations to arrest them. Any other questions?
So you talked about us being able to do this, like if we were looking to put any of that information, collect things maybe in our own neighborhoods, our own troubled areas, figuring out what tricky. If we're collecting that, you're passing that along to law enforcement just as a general citizen. Can you do that?
Correct, you can do that because once again, one of the organizations that I volunteer for, Guardian Group, once I go onto the escort website and identify the victims of sex trafficking based on indicators and red flags, I write a report with all the steps that I took to identify them, and it gets packaged and sent off to law enforcement. And I encourage you to reach out to your local law enforcement so you guys can come up with a plan to do this. Any other questions?
I have one. How do you protect yourself, your identity? Is it anonymized?
I'm glad you asked that. So it's called a sock puppet. What I use is not an actual puppet, guys. All right, but it's a fake identity, right? Where you create an aliases for yourself. They're doing it, right? So you have to do this as well because you don't want to accidentally like something on your actual account, like I did once, and I had to delete my account. But you come up with a fake account so you don't have any connection back to yourself. On Telegram, you need a number to use in order to sign up. So there's many text apps that you can use to use a fake number to get access to it. That's a very good question.
Can I do a follow-up?
Huh?
Can I do a follow-up question?
Yes.
It's a little bit tangential. I'm really curious. What do you teach the kids?
Okay, so I teach my students Scratch Junior and drag and drop coding, and I also teach them about phishing, and I teach them about open source intelligence as well. They're young, but we're living in this age now where students know more than we do. You know, it's a funny story. One of my students, they put a passcode on the iPad. I didn't teach them that. I'm like, how do you figure that out? And they just shrug their shoulders. So I try to teach them everything that I know so they're prepared for the world.
Any other questions?
I got a question.
Hey, Dale.
How's it going?
Doing good.
That's good. I know everyone can hear me, but I'll use the microphone.
So how do you, when you work with the law enforcement, how do you deal with chain of custody?
So in regard to chain of custody, once again, once it's out of my hands, the law enforcement handles it. I'm just doing the bulk of the work, but I do know that chain of custody is important so that evidence or things aren't tampered with.
Do you ever get called in for like court cases?
No.
No?
not really.
Okay. All right.
Anyone else? All right, well, thank you again. Thank you, B-Sides.